How do you make a vermicompost bin? Well, I can tell you everything about starting a vermicompost bin, but there are two things you need to keep in mind. One, you have to be someone who has 10 to 20 minutes a week dedicated to this, and every few months, 4, 5, 6 months or so, you need to have 3 hours for harvesting for this. There is no exception. You really need the time. So if you're going to start this project, you have to know you need this time. And also point 2 is you need to be very attentive to details. You cannot miss any details when taking care of this. There are living beings in here, and one mistake, you can have mass exodus, you can have like a lot of problems, and then what you end up doing is throwing this out and creating more garbage than you were intending on saving. So if you can put in the time and you're really a real keener, then this is for you. And without further ado, I'll explain how to make this. What you will need: a bin. It cannot be transparent and it must be wide, not tall. I use this 53-liter Rubbermaid bin that you can find in any hardware store in North America. A mat that you will place underneath a bin to collect any residues from coming underneath. Weights to hold up the bin and allow airflow. I use these leftover pots, but you could use bricks or containers. A drill. Cleaning products. Bedding. It could be a ton of shredded newspapers or dead leaves. If you are using newspapers, make sure that it is printed with soy-based ink. Make sure that the bedding is in small pieces. Do not put a full sheet of paper in there and expect it to work. And don't use computer paper that has been bleached. It's not good for the worms. Spray bottle with clean water. A handful of potting soil or sand. At least 50 red worms. You can find a local composting organization that sells them, or search for vermicompost on Craigslist. You can also order them online. And of course, selected food scraps in small pieces. The worms are vegans with a few allergies and a few exceptions. They eat fruits, vegetables, plants, coffee grounds, even with a filter, tea bags, and eggshells. They can even eat rice and pasta, but make sure there's no oil or any seasoning on them. They cannot eat lemon, oranges, garlic, or onions. You could put some in very small quantities, but I wouldn't risk it. Do not put anything else in the vermicompost bin. Do not put meat, dairy, oil, or any seasoning with salt or vinegar, or any animal or human excrements. That being said, let's make the vermicompost bin. Drill many holes on all sides of the compost bin, including the bottom. Make sure you put the plastic scraps left over in a recycling bin if your city accepts them, or throw it in the garbage. Do not wash it down the drain. Wash the bin thoroughly, because you don't know where it's been or who touched them. Set up the mat and the weights where the bin will be sitting on. The weights are there to allow airflow. Put the bedding in the bin. You want a depth of about 20 to 25 centimeters. Make sure it is thoroughly damp, like a wrung out sponge. Then put the food scraps in the bin and the soil. Put the worms in the bin, cover with more bedding. Once you have your vermicompost bin established, you'll be needing to feed them once a week with food scraps. You don't just open this up like a garbage can and throw in your banana peels and garbage or whatever and call it a day. It doesn't work like that. You'll be needing to keep your food scraps in a separate bin and making sure that the food scraps are in small pieces. Then once a week, you'll open this up, put in your food scraps, and cover it with bedding to prevent smells from going around. So you cover it with your bedding, and also another thing to keep in mind is that you put it in a different spot in your bin every week. So one week you'll put it in a corner, one week you'll put it in the center, another week you'll put it in another corner, etc. It gives the worms an opportunity to move around. Finally, you'll be putting a fresh new batch of bedding once a month. And I will be putting a PDF link that's very in-depth. It's my go-to guide that will really help you answer more questions that you may have. I'll be doing another video about bin maintenance. Also, another thing to keep in mind, you probably are watching this video because you have a few reasons why you want to start vermicomposting. Some could be that you want to save the environment, but a really important thing to keep in mind is if you want to start a garden, it gets really expensive, and the very first thing you should be doing if you want to start gardening is to vermicompost, because If you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, you'll see very quickly how expensive compost can become. So by doing this, it's free, like garbage is free, and you'll be preventing garbage from going to the landfill, and you'll be making so much use out of it, and it's also an interesting hobby, and it's good for kids to learn. So yeah, so get started on vermicomposting and let me know how it goes in the comments below.